This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? Oh, it's so good to be in the studio every dang day. Watching the blink, the bling on the Eiffel Tower for the Paris Games. I know that this is our building's thing because, we're an Olympic family. You know what I mean? I get wrapped up in freaking all of it, man. And I did see this Alcaraz and Nadal in doubles. That's not a. First of all, that'd be
on clay.
Yeah, Roland Garros.
Come on.
That's the thing. Here's the thing. I was like, this is you got to send this guy out at least with a doubles gold. But man, Rafael Nadal. I think he's like Bret Michaels. You remember Bret Michaels, the
of the lead singer of Poison?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about? That Bret Michaels?
But you knew there was going to be a Bret Michaels reference today, right? That's what you had on your bingo card?
I was ready for it.
No,
See?
But what was the show that he did? It was like
the dating show?
Rock of Love?
Rock of Love? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And so, but you remember his whole thing was he had that bandana with the hair, and everyone was like convinced that he took the hair and bandana off at the same time.
I'm still convinced
that's
of it.
That's what Rafael Nadal looks a little bit like these days. You're like, I don't think.
How many people from that show are still alive?
I think Brett.
Can we check in?
But Bret Michaels is still with us, isn't he? Wait. Hey, Jeremy.
Gonna have to Google that one.
Tell me. I mean, look, he had some hard years in there. Look, if we're in 2024
still alive,
and Flava Flav, 61 years old,
barely living.
Flava Flav is in the pool with the women's water polo team, and he's sponsoring the women's water polo team. Where's that money coming from for him? Where's Flava Flav getting clock money? You know what I mean? I just wonder. Like, this is the weirdest thing. Snoop Dogg and Flava Flav are the American representatives in Paris. So congrats. And how do you look? Can we sponsor a team? And what does that take?
I did a little Googling.
What do you have?
Flavor Flav's net worth?
Don't say Flavor Flav, Jeremy.
Sorry.
Bring something to
the
this.
whitest thing you've ever done in your life,
Come
Jeremy.
on, dude. We gotta keep up.
I got a little
semblance.
thing in my throat here.
Man.
Flavor Flav.
Did you just have
Flav.
some white bread with mayonnaise?
Stop it.
Flavor Flav, back to you.
$200 million.
No.
$200 million net
You
worth.
could sponsor a team
what?
with that.
He had like
Public Enemy is one of the greatest hip hop bands of all time.
but I just assumed that funds were not taken care of well.
Residuals, Alex.
He's still getting,
Residuals in the music industry, not a thing.
and don't forget his reality TV run, which was probably very profitable.
Which was also something of love, right?
Of course.
Flava of Love. I definitely spent a lot of college watching that reality show.
You would be correct. That was the name.
What was it? Flava of Love?
Flavor of Love.
No.
That's what it says right here.
Flavor of Love. Back to you. Come on. I learned more in the first 2.5 minutes of this show about Flava Flav than I've ever thought that I was going to. He's one, what's more shocking, that he sponsored the women's water polo team or that he is worth $200 million?
There is a discrepancy. Some say anywhere from 5 to 10 million only.
Okay.
It's a big gap.
If I'm him, that's what I'm saying too. For the IRS not to come after me.
Right.
I'm worth maybe $114 currently. After I gave all that money to Team USA water polo, come on. Anyway,
He's invested all his money in clocks.
I could see that they'd be like, oh no, what took off? Because when people get these side businesses, like Conor McGregor, he earned a couple $100 million as a fighter, but he made $1 billion when he sold his whiskey company.
Right.
And so I didn't know if Flava Flav had
Every former retired athlete has a wine company, right?
Right, yeah, or yes.
Or a car dealership.
I mean, Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul Jesse Pinkman. I didn't know what his name was. I to pull up Aaron Paul is actually a really good pull for me today. But Jesse Pinkman and
Don't you dare kill Aaron Paul. Don't you dare.
No. And Walter White, they have their own whiskey, right? Or no, tequila.
They've been at Costco signing, hawking at Costco.
Yeah. Not here.
Of course not.
Not in this state.
Not happening.
Yeah, that's what's funny when you go to Costco out of state and you're like, gosh, you guys have a problem.
Yeah.
You people in Washington State have a real problem. Why do you have to have a 17-foot display of booze?
Then they ask us why we have so many swigs.
I know, and you're like, come on, really?
Well,
that's the alternative.
Why wouldn't you? What, don't you guys have that in Washington?
They like their dirty Diet Coke. All right, it's fine. JJ, what's up, man? How you feeling? Everything good?
Yeah, it's great. Enjoying the Olympics.
Team USA doubles tennis, by the way. I did not have on the list that they'd be wearing the Lotto. When was the last time you saw a Lotto brand tennis gear?
Not everyone gets sponsored by Nike and Adidas.
I know, but Lotto? That's like an 80s, it's like Diodora or something, you know? When was the last time you saw it? Anyway, congrats. The medal count keeps going up for Team USA. We're really proud of them. Excited about it. We got a show to get to, though. Our program is always brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. It's not all just about Flavor Flav's net worth on this program, okay? We do other stuff, all right? So let's kick off the program. Let's get to the cut. That's how we start off the show. Let's do it right now.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, so this portion of the show also brought to you by Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com. That's TrajanWealth.com. The strength of schedule. This is a cruel mistress, the strength of schedule discussion, JJ, because we have it every year, and I don't care if it's NBA, I don't care if it's college football, I don't care if it's the NFL. Although the NFL is funny because there's not really such a thing as like a strength of schedule in the end.
There's too much parity in the league.
Yeah, it's very close.
I mean, like, so if you're on the AFC and you get to play the NFC South this year, that's a benefit, right?
Yeah.
Instead of playing the NFC North, which would be pretty tough. So, but in college football, Alex, this is a byproduct of realignment. Is when you have so many teams in a conference. Used to be back in the day, what was there, 9-10 teams? So you play an 8-game schedule in a 9 or 10 team conference, and you get to play almost everybody, if not everyone in the league. Remember in Pac-12, I think Utah would only not play 2 teams on a rotation.
Right.
So you get the strength of schedule wasn't as big of a deal. But now you're in a league of 16 teams, and it's a massive deal. And you see both sides of that this year with Utah and BYU.
I wonder if, and here's the thing, is every year we're going to have this discussion whether or not you're, but it's all based off of a conversation of assuming how a team you think is going to be, like how strong are these teams going to be. And I get it. Here's the good news for Utah fans. Based off of just the paper grading, Colorado has a really, really tough road ahead. And you know why that is? Because Colorado's not very good.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of it, right?
That's part of it.
And so when people go, dude, BYU's got a tough strength of schedule, it's also because BYU had a really, really rough year last year. And there are massive question marks as to where they are right now in that league. So half of the strength of schedule discussion, to me, either needs to be paid attention to a little bit more or just thrown out because you don't know if this team's any good yet. And you don't know how good or how bad some of these teams at the top of the league are. We're guessing, right? I mean, that's what all of it is. But handicapping like the strength of schedule is pretty interesting. BYU on this list that we're looking at from CBS Sports has the 5th hardest strength of schedule. And part of that is because their non-conference is difficult. They go to Wyoming, they go to SMU, and I think that there's a world where you could say both of that after those 2 games, because they start the season off against Southern Illinois down in Provo. They have an SMU and a Wyoming slate. Is that the first 3 games?
Yeah.
So there is a real not a likelihood, but there's a real world or possibility that you could say that they could be 1-2 at that point. Because why would it be an easy go in Laramie? Why an 11-win SMU team down in Dallas in a brand new conference themselves are looking to make a little bit of a name for themselves, and they'll do it on the back of a BYU team that they lost to in a bowl game 2 years ago. So why not? And so BYU's out of conference schedule is a tough one. But I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it. The world of college football right now, the way that BYU gets better is, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to soft pedal your way into the Big 12, into a Power 4 conference? This is what you asked for. I don't care what year it is. Utah definitely got a little bit of I don't know. Easy shake's not a thing to me, JJ. Like, all of these teams are going to be difficult. They don't have to face Kansas or Kansas State in the regular season. Fine. But guess what? Like, this is still a tough road for anybody who wants to get to the college football playoff.
There's no doubt about that. And you know what? It is true. Utah's schedule's easy. I'm going to come out and say it. It's not a hard schedule. Some may call it soft, but guess what? They didn't make it. They don't make the conference schedule. We understand the non-conference situation. You scheduled Baylor 5 years ago, you're thinking you're scheduling a Big 12 champion. Who knew that Baylor would stink
Right.
that quick, right? So when Utah scheduled that game, that looked like a really, really challenging non-conference game.
Who would have thought that those Florida teams that they scheduled years ago would have been like
Same thing.
kind of the down years for Billy Napier and the Gators?
You schedule who you think is going to challenge you and push you in the non-conference. You don't control any of that. As far as the conference goes, Utah couldn't control who was on their schedule, but man, are they benefiting from it? That's absolutely true. Oklahoma State on the road to open Big 12 play is extremely tough.
Yeah.
But after that, I mean, Arizona is at home. You don't play Kansas or Kansas State. And by the way, Kansas, Kansas State, and Arizona, their schedules are ranked easier than Utah's. Utah's
crazy.
13th, Arizona 14th, Kansas State 15th, and Kansas 16th.
So this is, again, these are the teams that are considered the best teams, minus Oklahoma State.
They're 10th, by the way.
So in the 10 through 16, 5 of those spots are taken up by the top 5 teams that are picked to
Right.
to finish in the top. Now, so is that because they are considered to be better teams, and so you look at it and you go, are we just talking about being favored? Because if you look at it and you go game by game, yeah, you're going to have Utah favored in most of those games. And so is that an easy strength of schedule then? Because if Utah had Kansas on their schedule, who would be favored to win that game?
Where is it being played?
Let's say it's played even in Lawrence.
Technically, it'd be at Arrowhead Stadium this
Oh,
year.
yeah, that's what I mean. Let's say it's in fake Lawrence.
You
and
it's probably a pick 'em, or you give Kansas the 1.5 if we're talking Vegas odds.
okay, and then if Kansas State had to come do what Iowa State's doing and come to Rice-Eccles Stadium, who would be favored in that game?
Utah.
By probably 4,
Not a lot.
right? 4 or 5.
Not a
you
lot.
get 3 at home.
Absolutely. I mean, probably go 3, 2.5, 3.
So yeah, so I think you would say if you were to do it like that, Utah would still be looked at as having better odds to beat even those teams that are right in front of them. Arizona is not going to be an easy game, but Utah doesn't have. I think it's interesting because unfortunately this is going to be what my friends at BYU will be like. Well, Utah got an easy schedule.
Oh, we've already heard it.
We've already heard it.
You guys need to call out their difficult schedule.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, I have. But what? BYU didn't pick their schedule. Utah didn't pick their schedule.
Right.
This is how it is. And a lot of the perception of whether your schedule's tough or not is where you're at currently.
Do you think the conversation with Mark Harlan went, all right, look, we'll come to the Big 12. You're welcome. If we do, you better give us the softest schedule on the planet. And Kyle Whittingham's in the back going, yup, you better. Like, no way, that's not how this goes. Kyle Whittingham is like, give me whomever. We will absolutely do it. Now, is there a game to be played? Is there a little bit of a scheduling thing that needs to be played? Yeah, but you know what? You do that. You play that game in the non-conference world. You're not able to really go through. You can't pick what you're going to be doing in conference play. So,
Especially with a 16-team league.
so what do? Do what TCU does. Play Stanford down in Fort Worth. ACC team.
By
right?
the way, picked to finish last in the ACC. The
Right.
ACC media poll that came out today.
Oh, no.
17th in the ACC for Stanford.
They're crying themselves to sleep with their trust funds underneath
Man.
them.
Oh, yeah. Wah.
So
I'm going to make $150,000 out of college. Wah.
So in the end, by the way, the teams that are considered the worst in the conference: Houston, Arizona State, Colorado. They have the quote unquote toughest schedules, right? Oh, the toughest schedule. You know why? Because Colorado could very well, and I don't know. Hey, Jeremy, you still got your guy on speed dial?
What do you think?
What's that line on that FCS game against North Dakota State?
I think we checked about a touchdown, but I'll give it a quick look.
But I'm telling you, whatever it is, you better circle that one. Colorado will not be ready for that game. Even if Shedeur Sanders is having a decent game, the rest of the team will. I think it's hilarious that they go, best quarterback in the conference, worst team in the conference. I've never seen something like that.
Social media is going to melt down when North Dakota State beats them.
Can't wait.
8.5 right now.
Oh, call your guy.
Which way?
I'm telling.
I know.
There's no way Colorado wins that game by 9 points, right?
No chance.
That's a wins in overtime by a field goal type of feel.
Yeah, that's going to be a nervous Saturday.
Right. And so Arizona State, that's a bad team, and they have the second hardest schedule. Because when you're Arizona State, guess what you have to do? You have to play at Mississippi State, right? And a team like Texas State, who normally you look at and go, that's an easy one. They go, hold on, wait for the what are they? The Bobcats? Here come the Bobcats. That's a way better FBS team than you're going to get. That's like playing
Arizona
UTSA.
State's non-conference is sneaky hard.
That's what I'm saying.
Wyoming, Mississippi State, and Texas State.
Okay, again, if that schedule was Utah, no one would blink an eye. You'd go 3-0, right? Even going to Wyoming, which the Utes have to do what next year?
Yeah,
or the year after. Utah would be favored in all those games. But Arizona State could be 0-3 in that stretch between Wyoming, Mississippi State, and Texas State. You see what I'm saying? The strength of schedule really is how good is your team?
Do you know who has the hardest schedule? It's West Virginia. Look at this list.
Yeah, and that's a team that bucks the trend that I'm talking about, which is a better team. Usually those good teams are at the bottom of the quote-unquote easier schedule. They have a tough one.
I think they got Pittsburgh and Penn State in the non-conference, and then they've got 5 straight conference title contenders: Kansas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas State, Arizona.
Hey, no Utah. They got an easy schedule. They don't have to play Utah. But
that's the only relief they get because they're playing everybody else at the top.
And that's wild. Now for BYU, Kansas State, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and Kansas, all of those teams you've got to face. Now, the good news is you get Kansas State and Arizona at home. And Oklahoma State, right? And Kansas. So all of those are tough games, but every one of those. Am I wrong?
Yeah, their hardest games are at home. That's going to help them. That'll give BYU a shot.
Okay, when did BYU kind of figure it out last year?
Oklahoma.
Last couple games of the season.
I felt like they played really well against Oklahoma.
And it really took them
one mistake to find that game, but they played really well against that team.
Yeah. My kid and I were watching the I said, "Did you see how the bronze medal match ended up with Team USA in Australia?" He's like, "No, we watched it." And he goes, "Oh." He goes, "That you know what happened? They just got Retzlaffed." I went, "You can't do." I said, "Buddy, that's too soon."
Now.
That's too soon, bro. Why would you do that?
Sick burn.
Nah, that's a kid who's watched a lot of BYU football in his day. So, it's like the thing where it's like he can make fun of his team, but I can't. Because if I would have said that to him, he'd have been like, all right, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm not doing this.
Well, if a Utah fan says that, you're irate.
Oh, yeah. He would be for sure. But he made the joke, and guess what? That's exactly the comparison. Like, how do you describe that? Well, they could have just made a tackle, and that would have been the end of the match. But there you go. What I'm saying is don't. We've already been caught up a little bit in the strength of schedule talk. The strength of schedule talk is so weird because we don't know where these teams really are. Here's the good news. I don't know how to handicap a wins and losses with a BYU team, even though we try to do it. We've done it a handful of times already. We did it at the very end of the season. We did it at the very beginning of spring. I would assume we're going to do the same thing after we kind of know who the starting quarterback is. And let's cross your fingers because it's not a very fun activity when they go, well, you'll find out who's going to start this week against Southern Illinois. And maybe we're going to have a 3 quarterback rotation. You don't know.
Better brace for that stuff.
And that's the kind of stuff. See, and once we get the season started up and we get Riley Nelson on every Friday for our Football Fridays and he and Sly get to chop it up with us, you talk about a guy who's been in the middle of a locker room with a quarterback battle before.
He's lived it.
And that's an awkward space.
Every single year he played.
It's an awkward space to be in. You throw in there the injury stuff because we're not even talking about injury. We're just talking about BYU's inability right now to have like a number one quarterback or to feel like somebody has taken over that spot as the number one quarterback. So the strength of schedule stuff, it is hard for me to really grasp because I don't know how good some of these teams are, especially the ones in the very middle. Your Texas Techs and West Virginia, do they kind of go backward? And did they just shock some people?
West Virginia, I think, is good, but with that schedule, maybe they do go a little backwards.
Do they end up being a 6-6 team this year when last year they were a 9-3 team?
I think the schedule favored them last year.
Yeah.
It's the flip side this year.
I don't know. So what I'm saying is the good news for Utah fans is this list is showing you that you're going to be favored in the majority of your games. So whether or not you want to make that a quote-unquote easier schedule, fine. If BYU were a better team, would they be further up the list than just number 5? If BYU was as talented, had a marquee quarterback, and was playing Kansas State, Arizona, Oklahoma State, and Kansas, but we went, but they get them all at home, we'd be having a totally different conversation.
Yeah,
we'd be going, they get them all at home. That's almost a tiny bit of relief, but doesn't really feel good for BYU fans still. So I think that the strength of schedule thing needs to be looked at with a massive grain of salt. All right. Kansas has the quote unquote easiest run, but Kansas, if Jalen Daniels doesn't get his act together, they don't have a good backup like they did last year.
They've got 6 conference games against teams that missed a bowl last season. 6 of their 9 conference games are against bowlless teams.
Bowlless.
They're bowlless.
How dare you?
Is that a word? Did I just create a word?
We've been cut off of the knees. We've been castrated of our bowl. Yeah. Look, 6 teams that missed bowl games last year. But there were also teams last year that made the bowl games that you were like, I didn't have any idea if that was going to be a bowl team or not. Come on, so who's going to be this year's West Virginia? Is that going to be Texas Tech this year?
I think TCU could be that.
Could that be TCU? Could that be UCF, who's also kind of under the radar, sneaky good?
Oh, yeah.
Or at least sneaky talented. They play Utah, Arizona at home. They get Utah at home the last regular season game of the year. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We've got more to go around the corner. I'm just saying, Utah fans don't think that it's going to be such an easy road. BYU fans, don't assume that because you have a quote-unquote tough schedule that you can't make inroads, because those the toughest games you have, minus Utah, is going to be at home, okay? So that's good news. That's good news for you. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. When we do, we've got tons going on today, and we're going to jump in. We've got some Utah Hockey Club talk. You ready for this?
Go hockey.
Yeah, playoff odds. You know what we're doing? I'm going to be honest. All we do with hockey is we're educating ourselves along the way on this thing. Like we're studying this thing right along with you guys. So when somebody says, "Hey, playoff odds for hockey teams," I've never looked at preseason playoff odds in the NHL in my life. You?
Not until the day.
So let's go over them and let's see if you're being fair to the Utah Hockey Club by just assuming that they're going to be skating their way into the playoffs. Or should we give it a couple more years? All right, stay right here. More to go around the corner. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing. When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex. Presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that dial.
On 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Oh, I was fascinated with those infomercials when I was a kid. The Ron Popeil, the food dehydrator, the pocket fisherman, and Rafael Nadal just reminded me, because he's losing some up top. How's Nadal, 39, 40?
Yeah, he's in that range.
But you remember Ron Popeil had the spray-on hair called GLH. Great-looking hair.
He's 38.
He's 38? Yeah, like might as well be 50 in tennis years. How dare you?
Does Ron Popeil make a spray-on man bun?
He's like, nowadays, I mean, do you ever see those videos on Instagram where they have those, because the toupees nowadays are lit. It's like they can really dial them in. Nadal needs that. The GLH was like the one they'd spray on.
Yeah. Carlos Boozer used that for his beard once.
Boozer, Giuliani, those guys were both spokespeople for the spray-on hair, I feel like. Oh, my gosh. All right, welcome back to the program. Hey, today's Wednesday. You know what that means? Still have another day to get your nominations in for the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Here's how it works. The Hercules Hero of the Week, you nominate a youth sports volunteer in your area who does a phenomenal job and doesn't get the recognition. You can give them that recognition. Go to KSLSports.com/contests, and then every Thursday, JJ and I read that winner off for you. What do they get? A Visa gift card from Hercules Credit Union, and they also get a gift card from Beehive Meals as well to enjoy the Beehive Meals. So you can give that to them. We read that nomination on the air. They get that recognition, so it's very, very cool. It's awesome. Brought to you by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Just go to KSLSports.com/contests. All right, the Utah Hockey Club. We're back talking some more hockey. We're getting into that space where now explain the odds to me, Jeremy. I'm not the degenerate gambler like you. When it says the Utah Hockey Club odds to make the playoffs, to make them they're a plus 190.
It means not likely.
Not great.
Yeah, anything plus is it.
Yeah.
Go the other way. I think it's 70% chance to not make the playoffs.
To not make it. Okay, that's not great, right?
It's a 70.6% likelihood of not making the playoffs.
Okay.
So they got a 1 in 3 shot.
All right. So you're in the upper 20. You're up in the upper 29% chance of making the playoffs. If you were to ask hockey fans, just based off of how much we talked about this team and how the team had a pretty good go last year, and then the season sort of fell apart when they realized the writing was on the wall that their ownership wasn't going to come through and they were going to have to probably move. All that kind of contributed to them not making a push for the playoffs. But if you were to tell a Utah fan, like, hey, do you think, is this team supposed to be any good? Just based off of how much we've talked about it, I think people would just assume that it'd be like a 60-40 chance of them getting in versus not getting in. But obviously, part of what goes into it is that in the NHL, making the playoffs has to do with kind of where you land in your division, and they are in a very difficult division, JJ.
It's the toughest division in hockey, if you ask me. Some people might argue that the Metropolitan in the East is just as tough. The Atlantic is pretty good too, but you look at the top of the Central Division in the Western Conference. You got the Dallas Stars, who are in the conference title. They had 113 points last year, I believe. That was one short of the Rangers. So the Stars had the second most points in the league, number 1 in the West. The Winnipeg Jets had the second most points in the West, also in their division, 110. The Colorado Avalanche, who won a cup recently, they were fourth in the West, 107 points. This is just in their division. Those 3 teams are really, really good. Now, who you got to catch is probably Nashville. Nashville had 99 points last year. Compare that to the 77 that the Arizona Coyotes had last year, who are now, obviously, the Utah Hockey Club. That's a 22-point gap you'd have to make up to get that 4th spot in the Central. And Nashville just went on an off-season spending frenzy. They just added a bunch of free agents. They were the team that made the biggest splash in free agency. So you have the 3 of the top teams in hockey, in the Stars, Jets, and Avalanche. Mm-hmm. And then you add the Preds. That's a 20-point gap that Utah would have to close to get to the playoffs to pass up Nashville. It's not going to happen. It's a lot to ask. And the Blues are improving too. They just barely missed out with 92 points. That's why there's a 70% chance they don't make the playoffs. So while this team is going to be really good and really fun, and I think they do really well at home, although, how the home ice is not that big of a deal, but I think they're really going to take off at home and do really well. I don't think that this team should be predicted to make the playoffs. I just don't think they're there yet.
I think that they're being smart about, here's the thing, too. They've made some tremendous signings, right? You think about how good the defense has gotten, and it was already a defensive core, a bunch of guys who who are younger, who people really like what they saw. But then they added a lot of those. They added some really phenomenal veteran leadership to that blue line. And then you're seeing just a ton of guys who've been added to this team or extended on this team that make this a really, really exciting conversation to have. But it also shows how difficult the NHL is, right? And you saw, of course, the news today. I don't know what that's going to affect with the, hearing that there's an ECHL tie now, not to the team over here across town because that's the Colorado Avalanche ECHL affiliate.
Yeah, I thought it was I think it was notable. It was only a 1-year deal with the Allen Americans.
So was it just so they could have an affiliation with an ECHL team?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's a 1-year deal. Typically, these deals are not 1-year deals. They're typically multi-year deals, which is why the Grizzlies have that association with the Avs, and that's a contract that can't be broken. It makes a lot of geographic sense for the Utah Grizzlies to be the ECHL affiliate. I think at this point, the Grizzlies would like to be their affiliate because a lot of fans here would have extra interest in going out and watching the Utah Grizzlies if they have Utah Hockey Club prospects.
Who owns an ECHL? Like, who owns the ECHL team here? It'd be separate ownership. Obviously, it is now, but I'm saying
it's the Elmore Sports Group.
But would that be something that Ryan Smith would say, "Hey, we want to buy that from you"? Like, is that
yeah?
Okay. I just don't know, like what those relationships are like.
I'm going to speculate. This is not reporting. This is speculation. That Sports Entertainment Group would love to purchase the Utah Grizzlies, but they have to be for sale, and I don't know if the Elmore Sports Group wants to do that. I think that SEG would offer over market value in order to make that happen because it makes too much sense for the Utah Hockey Club to have their AHL affiliate here in town. Mm-hmm. I'm not just talking about ECHL. I'm talking about American Hockey League. AHL team. Right now, their team is in Tucson, but we know that the Roadrunners, who are owned by the old Coyotes owner, Morello, they're going to move to Reno.
And he's maintaining the ownership of that group.
Correct. So there's going to be some shuffling here. This next year, it's going to be what it is currently. There's going to be a lot of shuffling here and a lot of movement. I can't speak to what the Elmore Sports Group wants to do with the franchise. I'm sure it makes a lot of sense that Smith Entertainment Group would be interested in purchasing the Grizzlies and the Maverick Center. By the way, that's part of the deal,
Salt Lake
City Stars play in the Maverick Center.
Right. Wasn't that also, that would have to be part of the deal, right?
I would assume so. So, not going to happen right now, but 6 to 12 months down the road, don't be surprised if something like that happens. It just makes too much sense for everybody involved.
Well, it's the farm system that you have to kind of get. That's the stuff has to get figured out. This is a team. This Utah Hockey Club is looked at as having a strong farm system, and whatever that looks like going forward to maintain that, to keep that. Ryan Smith and Smith Entertainment Group are going to try to figure out how to keep that pipeline going, and the guys that they're signing are signing as Roadrunners, right? That's the whole thing. Is like if you're going to be,
they're just going to stay with their junior hockey clubs, or they're going to stay in college.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You don't want to lose any kind of development time with these guys, and so I was going to ask about that. I didn't know if the 1-year deal was going to, if that meant for sure, like, hey, that's just buying this year for a minute just to kind of get things before they shake out, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of those guys that signed those rookie tenders, they're going to end up playing for the Roadrunners. There's no doubt.
Bill Armstrong was on Hans and Scotty yesterday, and I think that it was good because he sort of tempered expectations when it comes to what this team needs to be kind of aiming for. And that's not to say that they don't have high hopes, but certainly it's a difficult road to just try to get to the playoffs in the first place.
No, probably not at that. We're, and the way that we look at it is we're fourth year under the rebuild. and we're coming out. We got some good pieces. Obviously there's still some growing to be done by the Coolies and the Gunthers of the world, and there's still some steps to be taken before we're a bona fide team that's going to walk in and say, hey, listen, you're going to have to make the playoffs. We expect you to make the playoffs. We're still part of the rebuild coming out. We still got young players, and we're getting there. We hope to be a better team than we were last year, a more competitive team. I get excited about this group because they're young, they can score. We've got some good goaltending and Ingy and Vejmelka. So the fans are going to, like our team. We've just got to kind of grow organically and make that next step. And that's a part of, I think we're going to be one of the youngest teams in the National Hockey League and just trying to take a next step.
What's funny is I look at this team and I think that, general managers, they do this a lot where they hedge, right? And it's not to be, they're not trying to lower expectations, I don't think. I think it's trying to normalize that this is a really, really tough division, and they've got a lot of work to do. And there's no version of them not doing all that work. But what's funny is that nowadays we do want to see some, like, oh, yeah, you're not just going to have success overnight. We're not going to skip steps. And people are like, other people do. Other sports do. How can you skip those steps? And we've seen other teams, whether or not it's skipping steps or not, or getting a little bit lucky, a little bit like we do look at Vegas and go, well, how can that be what Team USA does? What the hockey club here in Utah does? It's not necessarily something that you have to think can just happen. It just doesn't happen like that.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have been skipping steps often, and it has never led them to a cup. Like there is something to be said about patience. And you look at the NBA side. I know it's apples and oranges. NBA and NHL are different. But 16 teams make the playoffs in each league. The Phoenix Suns tried to skip steps. How'd that go? First round exit. You know what I mean? Like there's something to be said about patience. It's a lot to ask your fans to be patient. And it's pretty cool here that instead of asking these fans for 4 years of patience, kind of like what the Utah Jazz are doing, being honest, we're only having to be asked for 1 year of patience with this hockey club before we really think this thing's going to take off. I mean, you're not going to, and it's going to be fun. Year one's going to be fun no matter what. And then year two, you can look forward to saying, you know what? This team is still going to have cap space. All these young players are going to get another year better. They're going to be ready to go. Who knows what that means 2 years from now, but this year, they're going to be fun, and I think they will be competing. I think they'll be close to that 8th spot. That's a wild card spot. So for people that don't know, the top 3 teams from each division go to the playoffs, and then there are the 2 wild card spots. So that's how that works. And last year, 2 in each
in both the West and the East, right?
Correct. And last year, the Vegas Golden Knights, and I believe it was the Kings. Was it the Kings or Predators? Either one. So that's why I keep talking about, if you break into that top 4 in your division, you got a really good shot. And that's why I brought up Nashville. You're going to have to edge out Nashville. So if it was this year, you would have had to edge out the Preds or the Knights, and they're just not there yet. So it's not easy to make the playoffs. Even though half the league makes the playoffs, it's not easy.
I just wonder if there's, if there's a spot for this team to kind of, if you think in year one that you have to have a playoff team, obviously that's not the case. But I will say this. You got that beautiful arena across the street. And if the two teams, it's like you already know what the Jazz's situation is going to look like next year, right? So then if you have these two teams and neither of them make it to the playoffs, the fan base is like, can we do something to at least... Here's the good news is that I don't think the Utah Hockey Club is further down. If you were to look at the rebuild kind of map or timeline, the Jazz are 2 or 3 years behind the Utah Hockey Club when it comes to development and being in those kind of down years and trying to figure things out. And the NBA and the NHL are obviously very, very different. But if you're anticipating that either of these teams are going to win championships anytime soon, the answer is probably not. But the good news is you have an ownership group. And by the way, GMs and top office brass people who know what the hell they're doing, right? I mean, that's something that not every. I mean, that's the Dallas Cowboys how it goes every year with their shenanigans.
When the owner's the GM, that's not good.
Really dumb. So,
Or the Suns are in a similar situation right now.
oh my gosh, Matt Ishbia is just doubling down on. It's just crazy. So, good news is it's in good hands. It's going to take a minute. All right, we'll take a break. We've got more to go around the corner. We'll bring back maybe a chunk more of that audio of Bill Armstrong maybe a little bit later in the program. In the meantime, we've got a Would You Rather right around the corner. Stay with us. 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody. Real life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
All right, everybody. Welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. I don't even know who this doubles team is from the U.S., but they beat Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz.
It's pretty impressive.
To move on to the semis. I never get because like Coco Gauff and her doubles partner, they lost today. Or yesterday, or what day are we on? At some point, they lost within the last 24 hours. All right? And Katie Ledecky is still... At some point, does Katie Ledecky just go, I'm going to come back to the Olympics every year just to do the 1,500 because it's going to take a few years. She'll start falling off. She won. What did she end up winning the 1,500 by today? 10?
Wow.
She won in her heats. She won like 15, 18 seconds. You win a race in any sport. This is the freaking Olympics where hundredths of a second or thousandths of a second count. She can go till she's 50 at this rate and still be up there. The person who's going to beat Katie Ledecky at the 1,500 meters might already be born, maybe. We'll see. But invite her back, all the Olympics. I know everybody's like, oh, is this going to be your last Olympics? She's 27, man. I don't know. What is that in swim years? Jeremy, you're our water expert.
Kind of up there.
Kind of up there.
I think her gold medal was the oldest by a USA female swimmer.
Oh, okay. So 27
Wow.
is up there. So 27, you better make hay. It's not gymnastics age where they're like, Simone Biles, 24? Jeez. Get her a knee brace. You know, when they're like...
That's why she's doing Manjaro commercials.
She's like, I'm just anticipating. It's like the Russian...
Just advertising to her demographic.
the Russian figure skaters, man, they're like, well, she blew it. She's 14. You know that next Olympics, she's going to basically be a geriatric. 18 years old. We can't have her on the team. How dare you? All right. What do we have here? Oh, yeah. Would you rather? Life moves fast. Quantum fiber internet is faster. Move to tomorrow speed today. QuantumFiber.com. That's QuantumFiber.com. Would you rather have stability at quarterback with a young guy with multiple years possibly behind him, but no bowl game, or you rotate through multiple quarterbacks, but you get to 6-6 this year? I'm talking about BYU, JJ. I'm not talking about.
I see what you're getting at here.
Okay, so
This is not going to be popular with BYU fans. I want to find my quarterback for the future.
so you have the solid choice of a young quarterback in your back pocket, but you guys go 5-7 this year.
I'm okay with that.
Versus piecemealing together a 7-5 season.
Because if I'm BYU fan, I do not want to have to go through another situation like this again next fall where you don't know who your leader
here's the
is.
thing. You won't. I think what happens is, bro, get to 7-5 with 3 quarterbacks.
How you doing that?
You get a couple wins apiece. Here's what you do. Here's my plan for BYU fans. You ready for this? Again, you're not going to like it. Retzlaff gets a couple starts. Bohannon gets a couple starts out of being forced to. And then by game 7 or 8, McKay Hillstead's familiar with the offense. He's the new starter. Is that an insane thought that could happen?
No.
And then they win. They win 3 out of their last 4 games.
I think that's a very strong possibility that happens. I just don't know that gets you to a bowl game.
But see, here's the thing.
Because if the other 2 aren't in the lineup long, that means things are not going well.
Well,
That would be a bad sign as far as wins go.
how many quarterbacks did Utah use last year? 7?
Yeah.
They had one transfer out in the middle of the year. I think they were the definition of quarterback problems last year, right?
Well, they had an elite defense that picked up the slack. And by the end, did you watch the bowl game? Gross. The Utah team that showed up for the bowl game sucked.
No, but as soon as you saw the opponent, you were like, anyway, see you guys next year.
Did you see the Arizona game?
Yeah,
it didn't go well,
see you next year. All right. But I'm just saying,
you
they won 8 games.
Quarterback 4, quarterback 5, you're in trouble.
They won 8 games and were legitimately in that game to ruin Washington's perfect season. So, give me the 7-5 BYU team, not knowing exactly who your quarterback is. But my caveat is that they know the last 4 games. That they do have, that it takes them those 8 games to really figure it out. Maybe they go, 3-5, and then they win a couple, 3 more at the end there.
Well, I'll say this. If Gary Bohannon is the best quarterback, and he's the same Gary Bohannon that was starting at Baylor,
why not?
Then all bets are off. This team could far exceed expectations, and you're okay with that because you're winning and you're moving forward as a program with a quarterback that just has one great year. But does that help you moving forward? Does it help you get the experience you need in that room? Do you have to go back into the portal and get another super senior? Didn't work last year.
I've got another Would You Rather real quick before we get out because Sam Farnsworth is going to join us from, checks notes, Paris, France, not Texas.
Don't forget our good friends in Paris, Idaho, who are listening right now.
Is that a place?
Absolutely.
Is it
up
really?
By Montpelier. It's up by Bear Lake, yeah.
Oh, Montpelier. Yeah. Montpellier. That's French. Also French.
Exactly.
There you go. All right, we're going to take a break here. We'll come back. Well, I did want to throw this one out, though. Win a bronze medal in sevens for the women's Olympic team, or win a silver for North Korea and have to go back to North Korea.
I think you know the answer to that.
All right, we're going to come back, talk with Sam next. We'll ask him. I'm just kidding. All right, more to go around the corner, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.